Welcome to the Potkey Summary of Principles of Great Design from WWDC 2026. Today's thread is design with a point of view, what belongs, what really doesn't, and how every choice asks for a little bit of a user's time, attention, and trust. A lot of this comes down to making products feel clear, safe, and human, especially once AI gets involved and the stakes get a little weirder. And underneath all of it, there's a pretty grounded idea. Delight isn't something you sprinkle on top at the end. It shows up when the basics are handled thoughtfully. One of the strongest ideas here is that design starts with intention. The question isn't just, can we add this feature? But why does it deserve to exist at all? If something is asking for a user's time or focus, it should justify that ask. That means choosing what not to include matters just as much as the exciting part where people sketch screens and build new stuff. It's a pretty useful gut check. Before you draw it, code it, or ship it, can you say what purpose it serves for an actual person? Good design also gives people agency. Instead of shoving everyone through one predetermined path, you offer choices and let them control how they move through the experience. People tend to engage more when they feel like they're driving, not being gently herded by the app. But agency only feels good if the product is forgiving. Easy undo, confirmation before destructive actions. Those small safety rails matter because they let people explore without that low-level fear of ruining everything with one bad tap. That confidence is part of the experience. You can feel when a product expects humans to be human. Responsibility shows up really clearly around privacy. The standard here is treating privacy as a human right, which is a much stronger framing than treating data collection like a growth opportunity. So, personal information should be requested at the right moment, with a clear reason, not grabbed early just because it might be useful later. And the bigger design question is, how could this feature be misused? That's not paranoia. That's basic responsibility. If a system collects data carelessly or exposes people to harm, trust erodes fast, and usually for good reason. That responsibility gets even more important with AI, because AI can sound confident while being wrong in ways that actually matter. A simple example is a recipe app suggesting an allergen to someone who absolutely should not be getting that suggestion. So if you're designing with AI, you have to plan for inaccurate or unexpected outputs. Maybe that means previews, confirmations, extra context, or in some cases just not offering the feature at all. And honestly, that last one is healthy. The real test is risk versus value. If a capability is flashy, but the downside is serious and the benefit is thin, safety should win every time. Metaphors and interfaces can be incredibly useful because they help people map a digital action to something they already understand. But they only work when they're doing real explanatory work. If a metaphor gets too literal, it can feel clunky. If it gets too abstract, it stops helping. And if you reuse a familiar icon for a completely different action, you start breaking people's mental models. The trash can is a good example. People already know what that means. Use it for something unrelated, and you're practically inviting mistakes. This is one of those quiet design decisions that can either reduce confusion or create it all day long. Consistency is one of those things. Users notice most when it's missing. When controls live in the same places and behave the same way across screens and devices, people can predict what happens next without burning extra mental energy. That predictability is a huge part of what makes software feel calm. At the same time, strict consistency can't be the only rule, because people use products in wildly different situations. At home, out on a run, in the car, with one hand in a hurry, half paying attention. All of that changes what works. So flexibility matters too, even if it means bending a rigid pattern to fit the moment better. Flexibility also means recognizing there is no single default user. People bring different ages, languages, experience levels, and accessibility needs, and good design has to make room for that range. Inclusion here isn't a bonus feature. It's part of whether the product works. Personalization can help too. If someone can rearrange controls, hide what they never use, and shape the interface around their own workflow, the product starts feeling more cooperative and less bossy. That kind of control usually leads to higher satisfaction for a very simple reason. It respects that people are different. Another distinction worth keeping is simplicity versus minimalism. Simplicity is about removing friction, so the main purpose comes through clearly. Minimalism, when it's handled badly, can turn into hiding essential functions behind one mysterious little menu icon and calling it elegance. Most of us have met that version of elegance, and it is rarely elegant at the moment you need something fast. Clear hierarchy, plain language, and useful context do more for usability than stripping everything down to the bare walls. Even something as ordinary as visible video progress can make an interface feel easier to understand because it answers a question before you have to ask it. Then there's craft, which is really attention to detail carried all the way through. Fonts, colors, icons, animations, alignment, scrolling behavior. All those tiny pieces add up to whether a product feels polished or slightly off. A jittery scroll or a misaligned element might sound minor, but people feel that roughness immediately, even if they never name it. And craft isn't one big finishing pass right before launch. It's ongoing maintenance and iteration, especially as new hardware and features show up. The goal is to let the product evolve without losing that sense of care. All of this points to a more grounded version of delight. Delight isn't random sparkle or some cute animation pasted onto a confusing experience. It's the feeling you get when something seems human, when it leaves you relaxed, confident, maybe even a little pleased because it handled your needs so cleanly. And that usually happens after the hard work is already done. The purpose is clear, the choices make sense, the safeguards are there, the interface feels familiar, flexible, simple, and well-crafted. When those pieces line up, delight tends to show up on its own. That's the big picture here. Good design earns trust by being intentional, forgiving, responsible, and clear. And maybe the nicest part is that none of this depends on being flashy. A lot of the best design just quietly makes your day easier, which is a pretty great trick. This episode was generated by Podkey. Create your own at podkey.fm.
Podcast.